the quiet stillness of the night, beneath the glow of the moon, two souls found solace in letters. It all began by chance, an accidental exchange between a man named Thomas and a woman named Evelyn. They lived in different cities, separated by miles of countryside, yet their hearts seemed to inhabit the same space under the moonlight. Thomas sat alone in his study, gazing out at the moon that hung low in the sky. On a whim, he penned a letter to a stranger, placing his deepest thoughts on paper. He wasn't sure why, but he felt that somewhere someone might understand the longing he couldn't express aloud. The next day, he left the letter in a mailbox with no specific recipient, a letter to the universe. In another town, Evelyn received a letter in error. Curiosity sparked as she unfolded the parchment. The words were raw, honest, and resonated with her own feelings of loneliness. Rather than dismissing it, she wrote back. Her reply was thoughtful, filled with reflections on life, love, and the unknown that lay ahead. Over the years, their letters became a ritual. Always written under the moonlight, they shared their most intimate thoughts, their fears, their dreams. Though they had never met, their words painted a vivid picture of who they were, as if their souls had known each other long before the letters began. Through Thomas's letters, Evelyn learned of his childhood, his love for poetry, and the heartbreak that had left him scarred. He, in turn, became her confidant, learning about her struggles with finding her place in the world and the quiet grief she carried from a love lost too soon. Their connection deepened with every letter, and though they had never seen each other's faces, they felt closer than most lovers who walked side by side. Years passed, and both wondered what it would be like to finally meet. Would the connection they had nurtured through ink and paper survive the light of day? They agreed to meet under the same moon they had admired for so long, in a quiet meadow where the stars shone bright, and the world seemed to stand still. When the night came, Thomas stood in the clearing, his heart racing as he saw a figure approaching. It was Evelyn. She was just as he had imagined, though seeing her in the flesh felt like a dream. For a long moment, they simply stood in silence, the moon casting its silver glow over them both. Their first words were hesitant, as if the reality of their meeting might shatter the illusion they had built. But soon the familiarity returned. They laughed, reminisced about the letters, and shared the stories behind their written words. The night felt timeless as they wandered through the meadow, talking about everything and nothing, just as they had in their letters. But as the dawn approached, doubts began to creep in. Could the connection they had forged in words survive in a world of actions? Would the reality of everyday life dim the magic they had shared under the moon? Morning light began to filter through the trees as they stood at the crossroads of their lives. Thomas reached for her hand, and for the first time he felt the warmth of her skin. He asked her the question that had been weighing on both of them. "Do we try to make this real?" Evelyn looked at him, her heart full of the love she had felt for so many years. "We already are real," she whispered. "We've always been." Together, they made the choice to let their bond, built over years of moonlit letters, grow in the light of day. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were willing to take the risk, because love, true love, was worth every uncertainty. Years later, Thomas and Evelyn continued to write each other letters, even as they shared a home. The moonlit letters had been the foundation of their love, and though they no longer lived in separate towns, the tradition remained. Under the same moon that had watched over their blossoming love, they sat together, writing words that would always remind them of the bond they had built, one that transcended time, distance, and even the fear of reality. Their love story wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real. It was built on words and promises, on faith and vulnerability, on moonlit nights spent dreaming of a future together. And in the end, that was more than enough. This story explores the beauty of connection through letters, the vulnerability of falling in love with someone you've never met, and the courage it takes to bring that love into the real world. Moonlit Letters is a tale of romantic atmosphere, emotional depth, and heartfelt moments that reminds us that love, even in its most fragile form, can be the most powerful force of all.